This is your government video on various types of governmental powers. In our Constitution chapter, we went through and we saw some of the things that they listed that were available for the federal government to do. There's also a section denying powers to the federal government, and there's the 10th Amendment, which gives powers to the states. So the enumerated powers are the ones that are listed in Article 1, Section 8. And these powers are for the federal government or federal Congress to make laws about. And they're literally listed out. In these enumerated powers, there also is one called the Necessary and Proper Clause. That one is worded in a very general way, and sometimes people refer to it as the elastic clause because it's used to stretch or create more federal government power than maybe was intended by the original list of enumerated powers. When the Supreme Court or when the government implies powers using the Necessary and Proper Clause, we call these implied federal government powers. For example, when the Constitution was created, we had an Army and a Navy. But over time, airplanes are invented and we decide that we need to have an Air Force. We use the Necessary and Proper Clause to imply that this should be the federal government's job, not any one individual state to manage and control the Navy or the Air Force. There are also institutional powers which are outlined in the Constitution. These are powers that are given to each branch of government, kind of like their main job duties, and other ways that they can check and balance other branches. There's a specific part in the Constitution which denies powers. That means they're banned. We talked about things like using bills of attainder or passing ex post facto laws. Some powers are considered inherently federal powers. Just when things are invented, it makes more sense to have the federal government regulating them as opposed to the states. So something like the internet is invented, and it makes more sense because it automatically extends over state lines that the federal government should have the power to control the internet and not individual states. Anything that's not specifically listed in the enumerated powers is reserved for the states, and that's what the 10th Amendment says. So the 10th Amendment is referred to state powers as reserved powers. And then there's also some concurrent powers. That means that every branch of government is allowed to make laws about these things. All levels of government, including local and county governments, are allowed to tax you. They're all allowed to create courts, and they're all allowed to create law enforcement. This is a graphic from the government textbook. You can see on the left-hand side national or federal government powers. That is a small list from Article 1, Section 8, and then some powers that are denied to the federal government. So the Constitution says that the federal government is not allowed to place tariffs when goods move between states. Some concurrent powers are in the middle, things like taxing, chartering banks and corporations, eminent domain. And on the right are state government powers. Anything that's not exactly written in the Article 1, Section 8 or enumerated powers are open to the states. So the states run elections, they regulate intrastate commerce, and they can obviously establish their own governments within the state. They often have state constitutions, they can have state police and city police. There are also some powers denied to state government. So they cannot deal with foreign affairs, they cannot issue war or uphold Army and Navy